What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? Story 1. Health insurance, dude. When you file a claim, it is often denied because they're counting on you not escalating it. Once you do, your case goes up to a medical management group, which ought to be called the "we don't want to pay" group. Keep escalating and involving your doctor. Fight for the insurance you paid for. Story 2. I worked part-time at a Domino's franchise in college. The owner was, at first glance, a short-tempered, critical penny pincher who did everything he could to save business money, right down to watching over your shoulder to make sure you didn't put too much cheese on a pizza. Cheese is called white gold in the pizza industry, even back in 2002. But after working for him for a while, you realized why he was so specific about the margins. Twice yearly, he would send out generous bonuses in the form of money orders made out to his employees from his own personal savings account to the college kids working for him. The check/money orders contain the memo line, "Keep learning." The amount of the money orders would be directly correlated to the profit margins of the stores he owned. The dude did legit profit sharing. After I graduated, I heard a rumor that he was trying to start up a small education grant trust that would benefit applicants of the Farmer School of Business at Miami University, but I don't think anything ever came of it. This owner also played favorites when hiring. Every single one of his managers was a former employee. 3 of the 4 managers at his stores when I worked there had graduated from my college with business degrees. All 4 of them had a small portion of their education paid for by Marvin Covington. Marvin Covington, Oxford. Ohio Domino's owner from Vevey, Indiana, died in 2017. That dude knew how to do business and do it right. It would be a very sweet idea if you guys could band together to establish some sort of bursary for the school in his memory. Dude was clearly very passionate about education, and in this day and age, it's nigh impossible to find someone in management who actually cares about their staff enough to profit share. If the staff are largely business grads, surely some of them have managed to make enough money in their careers that this could be possible. It would be a great way to honor his memory. Story 3. I worked at Olive Garden in the mid-90s while I was in college. Back then, they had the all-you-can-eat soup, salad, and breadsticks lunch special for like $4.25 plus tax. Working lunch shift sucked. You would probably get 2 or 3 tables, and there was a 99% chance that all of your tables were 2 ladies getting this lunch special with water during their lunch break. After about a year, several of our best servers were mysteriously fired. It turns out they were running a scam where they used the same receipt over and over again when these ladies paid for their meal with cash. Since we could get those 3 items ourselves from the back without ringing them into the system, these servers were just pocketing the cash for the entire meal. So, instead of making like $5 to $8 in tips during a lunch shift like the rest of us dumb schmucks, they would make an extra $20 or so by stealing from the company. Story 4. I used to work in college admissions. Rich donors, athletes, and other VIPs have lower admission criteria. They still have minimums, but they're super easy to reach, even for a selective university. In the case of the university I worked for, BYU, children of general church authorities also got this. Story 5. I worked at a comic book store that offered a service where you paid a small premium to have rare comics sent to them graded at CGC. A few months later, we had many customers coming in to check the status of their comics. We contacted the owner to see what was going on, and he would always claim that there was some distribution problem. Fast forward a few months, we found out he was taking customers' graded copies and selling them online while trying to return back issue versions of their original comics. My friend and I were managers and had absolutely no idea this was happening. It was a smaller town comic shop, and all the customers sending in comics to be graded were good friends of ours. But the plot gets thicker. Turns out his wife was signed for the business, so the owner wasn't really the owner. We called her and explained what was happening. She was in tears. She came to shop to meet the wronged customers, and she took graded comics from the owner's collection and let the customers pick out comics equal to the value of their graded comics in return for the mishap. Fast forward a few months, she closed the store, gave us our paychecks, and even some "I'm sorry" money. It turns out the guy was doing all kinds of other shady shit. She divorced him, and I'm like 99% sure he went to jail for fraud. He's also banned from CGC and all of the licensed big Comic-Cons, lol. So don't worry, he lost that battle. Story 6. This Mormon church likes to talk about how much charity they do, but it's always tied to some form of missionary work or proselytizing. Particularly in Utah, they would secure housing, furniture, food, etc. to Iraqi refugees. And, in exchange, these poor people who have had their whole life uprooted would have to be visited by and listen to missionaries drone on and on about the Mormon religion, and having the gall to ask these Muslim refugees if they want to get baptized after a few weeks. I know this because I, non-Mormon, was dating a Mormon girl back then, and I was asked to translate for the Iraqi families. I speak Arabic. Of course, I never did. I told them the whole scam and told the Iraqis to act interested so they could keep getting charity. We scammed the scammers, basically, lol. Story 7. T-Mobile has 2 coverage maps. The one they show customers and the real one that is internal shows the actual coverage. Diminishes by about 50%. Their coverage is built on a bed of lies. Story 8. At a local deli/grocery store I worked at, everyone raved about how good their mac and cheese is, and it always sold really quick when I worked in the deli. It's even labeled on the menu as store's famous mac and cheese. It's literally just Stouffer's. We didn't even add anything to it. Story 9. If you were on live chat with customer care, I could see what you were typing before pressing send. I watched people work through grotesque, racist, sexist statements, fraudulent lies and mistruths, meticulous grammar fixes, and their whole range of emotions in real time before deleting and typing, okay. Story 10. I don't think it's a bad secret at all, but back in college I delivered pizzas for Papa John's. The store manager must have had an undiagnosed case of OCD or germophobia or something, because every night he would assign someone to do the cleaning duties, mopping floors, double-checking expiration dates, throwing away expired stuff, etc. And every night he would absolutely lose his temper and berate whoever was doing the cleaning. They were going too fast, they weren't cleaning everything, whatever. After that, he'd always take over the cleaning himself. He was amazingly picky about the cleanliness and food quality. Expiration date is 3 days from now? Fuck that, I'll order more. Throw that shit away, we're not serving it. He would also go out of pocket to buy special cleaning products because that worthless bullshit that corporate wants us to use doesn't get the job done. He also went out of pocket to hire some kind of specialist to clean out the fountain drink dispenser, ice machine, and all that stuff. The machine needs to always be as close to brand new as possible. One standout moment for me was when he reduced a cashier to tears by hollering, "Would you eat off this floor? No? Then it's not clean enough." He wasn't telling her to eat off the floor, he was just making a point. After we'd closed the store, he'd kick all of us out, lock up behind us, and stay until something like 2 a.m. cleaning the place. You always knew when he closed because you could smell the chemical scent still lingering in the air. The end result of this was the store, the food, the equipment, and the facilities were always in squeaky clean condition. Customers, somehow, picked up on what a perfectionist the store manager was and bought from us all the time. Because there's a lot of peace of mind that goes into knowing your food was cooked by someone willing to throw ingredients away before the expiration date, stay in the store until God knows when cleaning everything, etc. The true irony was how much the boss hated himself because he didn't think he was doing a good enough job to run a clean restaurant with fresh ingredients. It didn't matter how many compliments he got from customers or how many service industry veterans said they never worked in a place as obsessive about freshness and cleanliness as his Papa John's store. He was convinced his store was still a filthy barn. Eventually, he got promoted to some kind of higher-level corporate position, district manager, that required him to visit other stores and make sure they were all up to spec. The end result of that was a lot of stores in this area are all improved seemingly overnight. Just admit you worked for Los Pollos Hermanos. Story 11. Had a friend who worked for a bridal dress company. She would tell me all her stories after work. They intentionally will bring back the wrong dress in an attempt to get you to try it on, fall in love, and buy a more expensive wedding dress. They'll walk you through the more expensive section so you look through dresses out of your budget and want to try them on. They often forget to check if the dress you requested is in stock for the time frame you requested. Again, so you'll have to pay more for faster shipping or a nicer dress. It's a very predatory business masked by compliments, thinly veiled body shaming, and incredibly underpaid and understaffed stores. Story 12. The vehicle modification shop at Chillicothe Correctional Institution in Chillicothe, Ohio, dumps waste coolant from the machine shop into a storm drain that empties directly into the Scioto River because the chemical disposal tank is a 55-gallon drum in the paint shop, and that's much too small. They can't throw me in solitary confinement for complaining anymore. Edit. This happens about once a year, when the machine's coolant reservoirs are emptied and the coolant is replaced. It's not on a schedule, it's one of those things that you do when work is slow. Each machine holds 15 to 20 gallons, and usually you just add more as it evaporates, but eventually it gets nasty and needs to be replaced. It's supposed to go in a waste tote to be disposed of safely, which is what every non-government machine shop does. Being able to prove this is being done would require knowing when they're going to do this, and that's a decision that's often made spur of the moment. Hey, work is slow, let's have a cleanup day. There aren't any phones in the machine shop either. A container to store the waste properly costs $200. Why waste taxpayer money when we can just poison the taxpayers instead? Story 13. Ford parts from Mexico are way more reliable than Ford parts from Detroit, or at least they were before 2020. I worked in Detroit and we had some customers who were fussy about us always doing repairs with Michigan parts, but when we had a problem that wouldn't stay fixed, we would always secretly switch to the Mexican parts, which did solve things. Story 14. I was a prison guard a decade ago and we installed some facial tracking software in the surveillance cameras. One of the inmates panicked while cleaning the unused solitary confinement cells, which is usually a desirable job. It's easy as fuck and nobody pays attention to you. And he insisted that he be moved out of that job because there was a ghost. The ranking officers decided to check the new cameras, and the security software claimed it saw a face behind the inmate at the same time as he was visibly startled in the camera footage. We're all aware there are mundane reasons why a new facial recognition system would think it saw a ghost, but since the inmate and the security software both thought there was a ghost, it was decided that the inmate should be immediately transferred at no penalty. Story 15. Worked at an American Toyota dealership in the body shop for 12 years. We would throw away literally everything regardless of the environmental impact. Car paint, which is nasty shit by the way, went straight to the dumpster. Radiator fluid? Down the drain. I even saw someone put oil down the drain a couple times, even though we had barrels for it up in the service department. The only thing we saved was old car parts, which the boss then sold to scrap yards and pocketed the money. The painter didn't even wear a mask either. He is around 60 and still kicking despite 30 years of painting without a mask somehow. Story 16. I'll say it. A place similar in name to Past Face Urgent Care, at least in the region I worked at, banned their front desk from informing customers that they have a credit balance to use toward their services, and still required us to charge customers the full price on top of what we already owed them. Some accounts had like $500 of copay that should have been refunded but weren't. I was actually reprimanded for applying the credit balance because despite finance agreeing my method was correct, the regional manager said it was not a good look for the company and hindered her profits. Story 17. I worked for a restoration company. One time an elderly woman called them to clean her house. She was a hoarder or there had been a fire, I can't remember. Anyway, the company charged $57,000 for the work to be done, but in actuality, they couldn't even get the charges to add up to $20,000. She couldn't file this on her insurance. There are other examples of gross overcharging, but this is the worst I know of that wasn't on the large loss side. The lesson here, if you have water, fire, mold, or hoarder damage, and call in a company to clean it up, go through every line item on the invoice. Every single one. Story 18. I had someone quote me for $10,000 plus for black mold, and it wasn't even black mold. Also, the way they were trying to terrify me about black mold was insane. They freaked me out badly enough that I didn't go back home that night and made a doctor's appointment for my kids first thing next morning to check on them. That was when my doctor told me that black mold was only dangerous for people who are predisposed to being allergic to it, that it would cause asthma flare-ups and different things like that, and since we had already been staying there for a month with no issues, we probably didn't have an allergy to it. He said that as long as we wore a face covering, we could clean it up ourselves and not worry too much except maybe having minor allergy symptoms. The company that gave me the estimate was so predatory and literally made us fear for our lives and safety. He also was trying so hard to have us start on the work immediately, before even having proper testing to let us know what kind of mold it was. We ended up cleaning it up on our own. Just want to add, I am not a mold expert. The advice my doctor gave us was based on our situation, not all situations. Story 19. I still work here, but everyone, please, get a copy of your medical records from every place you've been to. Keep a hard copy in your home, because I have horror stories from working in medical records since 2007. Story 20. I worked at a Petco in Alaska. Apparently, brown and black mice are not allowed up here, only white mice. We got a shipment of a bunch of black and brown mice and had to take them to the vet to be killed. Also, the animals are literally shipped in on a UPS truck and delivered in packages. I would open a package and it would be full of fish or mice or snakes. You never knew what was coming. It was wild. Luckily, my shift manager was a really good person. She tried her best to help any sick animal and was super diligent about keeping the cages really clean. She would stay after hours to care for the sick animal in the back and double down on cleaning. When upper management came, they didn't give a shit about how clean anything was. They would yell at us to get more customers to sign up for pet rewards. If I didn't pester every single person checking out, they would get angry and give me point deductions. I have no idea what the deductions even did. One of the upper managers watched me for like 3 hours when I was at the register. He said I wasn't pushy enough on getting people to donate and sign up for shit. Bitch, I will ask once, and if they say no, I am not asking again. That shit is annoying as fuck. He also got mad at me when I didn't clean the birdcage fast enough. It took time away from the register. Sorry, I don't want our birds to stand in their own shit for hours. So yeah, I'm gonna take my time to scrub that shit clean. Also, don't buy fish from Petco. Pretty much every shipment that came in, they were all infected with ick. Basically, half our tanks were in quarantine. We had several customers come back saying we killed their entire fish tank because of a fish we sold them. Fuck Petco. Story 21. Home Depot. Most security cameras are fake, easy to steal, and most stores have no security and loss prevention. Buy the clearance items that end in .03. After that, the next step of the markdown process is the dumpster. Dial 676 on any desk phone to the live page on the overhead speakers. Fun to mess with that. Buy the products in front. It's newer. The old product gets pushed behind continuously. If you see a reduced tag item, usually larger items, appliances, vanities, etc., with slight damage, ask someone to scan for the price. Most times they're not updated and will be cheaper than the tag says. Free bottles of water for customers behind the customer service desk. Story 22. I used to work as a receptionist at an upscale salon. While I was there, the salon introduced a new line of products marketed towards men. Up until that point, most of our products were marketed towards women, but the execs saw that we were getting more male customers. Every item in the men's product line was about half the cost of our other products. The men's shampoo was the exact same shampoo the salon had been selling for years, but because they put it in black packaging with the word man on it, it was half the price. The owner's explanation was, well, men don't want to pay that much for hair products. For the rest of the time I worked there, every time a woman came up to buy that shampoo, I'd tell her that the men's shampoo was the exact same product for half the price. Story 23. All new clothing and everything you try on is dirty. I've worked in retail for years and it still shocks people, but there's no washing machine or disinfectant spray or wipes. Nothing. I've opened boxes of new clothes that had white bugs coming out of them. Seen a woman after a workout class come and try clothes on, then just leave still sweaty from the class. One older lady left dime-sized skin flakes in the clothes she tried on. Not to mention whatever happens when they return the item or whatever happened in the factory. People are gross. Nothing is clean. Always wash your clothes when you get them home.